Who's your emergency contact? Who should we notify in case of death? Welcome to the USP, where I spent the last 2+ decades of my life. You know, surviving the penitentiary doesn't really have anything to do with your size, your fighting skills, or even your status. It has everything to do with how you conduct yourself and how you deal with situations. Through the course of my time, I see a lot of dudes come through, but because they're bigger than somebody, or they might have grew up learning learning martial arts or knowing how to box, they think that those skill set, because of their size and their ability to fight better than somebody else, is a pass that allows them to be disrespectful to someone. In a penitentiary, or really anywhere in life, there's always an equalizer. An equalizer is you understanding the situation and evaluating it in a way that gives you the best advantage to win the outcome, to be victorious in the altercation. I didn't grow up learning martial arts or how to box. I think I took karate for like 2 weeks when I was in like 4th or 5th grade, and ended up getting kicked out of the class. I think the furthest I've gotten into like the belt wise was a yellow belt. So I wasn't even up at the skill level to be able to spar with anyone. The furthest I've got was going to the tournament and just really showing off the moves that I was taught as a white belt, doing your stance and your blocks and throwing your punches and stuff. But, I learned how to fight really just through experience, because even though I didn't know how to fight, I got myself in a lot of fight when I was younger. And, when you're younger, you have the ability to really survive a loss, meaning even if you lost, you weren't hurt so bad that you couldn't come back from it. But being in a penitentiary, when you lose a fight, that could literally mean your life or your mental capacity. Because I've seen people get knocked out and then get stomped out, and yeah, maybe they survived it, but now they're a vegetable. And some others were not as fortunate. I don't know if it's fortunate to survive and be a vegetable or to just lose your life straight out, right? So when I come into the penitentiary, I know I'm smaller than the rest of the 90% of the population. I'm 5'5 3/4", but we'll just say I'm 5'6", right? But not only that, I don't know how to fight. Like, not on any type of skill levels. So when I am put in a situation where I have to enter a combat situation, my mentality is to survive. And meaning, when I say that, is to survive by any means. And the reason that I take that mentality, that stance, like I said, through the course of my career, I've seen a lot of people that go into a situation and they underestimate their opponent because they're bigger or because they got skills. So they're going with the mentality of, yeah, I'm going to knock this fool out. I'm going to go in and piece this dude up. Well, if you're fighting somebody that isn't as big as you and doesn't have the fighting skills that you might have, In his mentality, he's fighting for his life. So when you enter a cell to go deal with your situation and you're not in there to fight for your life, you most likely might lose your life. And I've shared with you through the course of my bid, I've been jumped, I've been stabbed, I've been hit in the head with a hammer, I've been in riots. And, from the outside looking in, when people see me enter these altercations, they think that I'm brave or courageous. But to be honest, it's neither of those things. At the end of the day, it's just about survival. Because when someone calls you out, if I don't step up to it, if I'm in the mindset, oh, I'm going to be a bigger man and walk away from this altercation and allow this man to disrespect me, well, me taking the high road is not going to be perceived as that. It's not going to be perceived that I'm the bigger person. It's going to be perceived that I'm scared or that I'm weak or that I'm not willing to defend my position. Now, once that perception is tagged on you, then the wolf's going to come out of the woodwork. Because in life, you have to understand bullies and predators, they're not looking for a fight. They're looking for an easy mark. And if they know somebody's not willing to defend themselves, if they know someone's not going to fight for what is theirs or stand up on their beliefs or principles, then they're going to take that as an easy mark and they're going to come. Because, I mentioned that I know a lot of good men that are still incarcerated, men that I've had relationships and friendships, from the time I met them till now. But as many as good men that I know, the douchebag and the crud balls and the rest of them outnumber us. There's a lot of people that are in prison is because, I really don't like to say it, but they need to be there because they're not going to change their mindset. They're just people that gravitates and relish and loves the chaos and drama. And they're certified, and there's some in there that are certified psychopaths. And I've been around them all. You learn, over time to spot people because some people are not dangerous because, they're real skill at combat or that they're willing to, do certain things, certain violence. But they're dangerous is because they have no principles, they have no morals, they have no ethics. And when you come across those people, you have to give them a wide berth. It's not staying out of their way, it's just not involving yourself with them. But those people, when they do get in your path, when you can't avoid them, to ensure your own survival, you have to be willing to deal with them, regardless of what the outcome might be. I always say, courage is not getting into the conflict because you can be assured of the outcome that you can win or that you'll end up at the top. Courage is facing a situation and dealing with the situation regardless of the outcome and regardless of the fact that 99.9% you're sure you're going to lose it. And that's the difference between a lot of these dudes. Some people, they're quick to go on a mission or they're quick to deal with a situation because, like I said, they're bigger than somebody, they have, better fighting skills than somebody, or they have the numbers. But when the numbers is against you, when it's you facing 200 individuals and there's nothing but a handful of you, and at that time you were still willing to fight, standing on principle, that separates you from the average individual. And through the course of my time, the way I've conducted myself, I feel that I have separated myself from the average individual. And it's never been because I'm bigger than somebody. I'm not bigger than a whole lot of people. And it's not because my abilities surpass somebody else. I still don't know how to fight. I picked up, some skills here and there, meeting people that knew what they were doing, and I trained with them or whatever. But I knew the environment that I'm in, so I always want to give myself the best chance and best opportunity to make it out of a situation alive. And to do that, I have to arm myself with some skill sets that I otherwise were lacking, filling that void. But, I think, what set myself apart is that I've always been someone that tried to uphold the principles that stood for the things that I believe. Now, you might not agree with the things that I believe, with the things that I signed up for, but for me, if I believe in something, I'm willing to die for it. And people that have known me, that's been incarcerated with me, that's been out here with me in the streets, they understand that these are not just slogans or these are not just words. I've lived it. I proved it. I say that not to separate myself or to say that I'm better than the next person. I say that because when you go into something with complete conviction that you believe that you're doing something for the right reason, for me, it's almost a shield, you know, that protects me, that gives me courage, that gives me that extra energy to overcome the situation that I'm about to get into. When I got in the riot with the Mexicans in 2015, we were outnumbered. There was 250 Mexicans on the yard. It blew up in every unit throughout the penitentiary. But at that time, there was only 17 white boys that came out. They had no clue what was going on. And the situation had nothing to do with me or my homeboys because the beef was between the Mexicans and the whites. But one of the white guys that was there was one of the homie's cousin. And the homie decided that he was going to stand with his cousin. For me, as your homeboy, I'm looking out into the field and I see that we're vastly outnumbered. And every single Mexican on that yard were armed with homemade knives, ice pick, bone crushers, whatever else. They came out there prepared. I was just running a freaking poker game and got caught up in the middle, and it was just happened to be the shit just happened to pop off where we were at. But my principle didn't allow me to walk away. You know, after the incident, people that were on the yard, came and gave me my props and was like, "Oh, damn, you down, you crazy." But for me, it had nothing to do with being down or being crazy. It was just more on the line that this is my homeboy, and he's willing to stand here and really possibly could lose his life over this situation. And I know in that situation that, thinking back now, I could have easily lost my life. If you go back to when I shared that story on a prior video, I got stabbed up. I got and one of them hit me in the back of my spine. And we were locked down after the riot. I was coughing up black stuff and blood for 2 weeks. It's not till recently have I allowed myself to really review that situation and see how crazy that situation really was. Because when you're locked in, when you're locked down, even though when you're in your cell at night, the lights are shut off, the doors are locked, it's hard for your mind to process the chaos. Because when you dwell in the chaos, when you give yourself a chance to really review everything in a wide scope, it can be really depressing. And it could be really freaking, um, I don't want to use the word traumatizing, which probably is the correct word, but maybe more demoralizing. Because when you start processing your situation sitting there in a cell, knowing you still got decades to do, that could break your spirit. And like I said, through the course of time that I've seen a lot of people that's done that, that dwelled on their time, dwelled on their situation, dwell on the chaotic environment that they were in, and they end up ODing on purpose, or they end up putting a sheet around their neck. In other ways, they find, you know, ways to escape their situation permanently. So, like for me, I'm not really sure if I have a direction for this video, but lately, just in the last few weeks, I haven't been able to sleep too much because, I have no control on what my dreams are. I have no control over what thoughts coming through my head and how I'm physically and mentally affected by it. When I start first doing these videos, I had a lot of comments from the viewers that's been incarcerated, and some of them were telling me, they just go to work, come home, and lock themselves in the room. I have a few people that work here at my shop that have been incarcerated that still have a hard time, functioning in the community. Just this last weekend, they had Laos New Year's, and I invited them to come with me to go enjoy the festivities for a couple hours. And some were like, "Man, that's too many people." Like they get, you know, agitated and all the rest. Like I'm not in their head, so I don't fully understand, like on a personal level, but I do understand from a psychological level on why they might feel that way, you know. And they look at me like that I'm exceptional because on the outside looking in, I don't seem to be affected by the 2 decades that I've spent incarcerated. And I emphasize, this series is Welcome to the USP. So you already know I haven't just been locked up in a facility. I've been locked up in some of the most violent penitentiaries this country has to offer. I've been to two penitentiaries that was closed down because of the level of violence. The last one I left, Florence USP, we were placed on congressional lockdown pending a review because they had 4 bodies in the span of 4 months. And that's not including all the stuff in between, the stabbings and the assaults and all the other chaos that happened in between those bodies in that span of 4 months. But being in there, like again, I say you don't have time to process what's really going on or the psychological effect that is happening on you because for me, I accepted the environment that I was in. I understood the environment that I was in, and I understood what it took to survive that environment, and I was willing to do whatever it was necessary to ensure my safety, not my freedom. There's a difference. My mindset was to ensure my safety, was to make sure I don't get violated, and to make sure I don't become a victim. And whatever needed to be done to ensure those things, I made up my mind before I entered those gates back in Lompoc that I was going to do what was necessary. And if that meant catching a case and not coming back home, then that's what it was. You know, I remember before I went to the penitentiary when I knocked out that guard, they had me on the news out here in Utah. Because at that time, stuff like that was unheard of. Until me and my homeboys came through the facility, and we weren't wild for the sake of being wild, but we weren't taking no shit. The system is designed to break you down. When you come through, when you get booked in, they're stripping you out, they're bending you over, making you spread your butt cheeks and cough. At any given time, they can come through your cell, take all your shit, have you stand facing the wall. Like everything in the system is designed to break you. It's designed to make you submissive and conform. When they had me on the news, I had called, after when I got my hour out, I had called home one time and my dad picked up the phone. And he had seen me on the news. And he was like, son, say, please give up. You can't win. In Cambodia, you died 10 times already. They beat you with the stick. You died 10 times already. And he was like, I know you have to do a lot of time. Just lay it down and find a way to come home one day. But for me, coming home wasn't enough because I didn't want to come home broken. I didn't want to come home like some of my friends that I know. Yeah, they made it home, but their mind has been shattered. Their social ability has been shattered. There's friends that I have that are more comfortable in a chaotic environment. They can walk around in a in this violent place with their chests out and their head held high. But out here in the world, they have their head down, they're unsure of themselves, and I couldn't allow myself to do that. So my answer to my dad was, I can't give up. I can't lay it down because when I do that, then I'm broken. You know, if given a choice, my freedom is important to me. Being taken away from it, I long for it. Like who wouldn't? I long to be able to go to the fridge and eat what I want to eat. I long to be able to leave the house and go where I want to go, watch what I want to watch, be with my family, be with my friends, and all the rest of it. But I wasn't willing to sacrifice, you know, my integrity. I wasn't willing to sacrifice my mind or my safety just to come home. If given a choice, I would rather have died in there, living a life, standing for my principle, being a man, than to be a victim just to make it home. But when you look on your jacket, when you get written up and stuff, the administration, the guards, the probation officer, the courts, and all the rest, they don't understand that. They just look at it and say, oh, you've been involved in a lot of incidents. You're a violent individual. Matter of fact, you're so violent, you have such a violent history, we're not going to even allow you to come to a halfway house to integrate back into the community. We're going to refuse you these resources that could and might help you integrate back into society because you have such a violent history. But there's no details in those things. All they see is fight, stabbing, riot, fight, possession of a weapon. So they look at it and they see it's all black and white. And they just think that you're just out there in this environment just being a wild animal. They never take into account that maybe these things that I've been involved in, maybe these incidents that I've been a part of were things that I needed to ensure my safety, were things that I needed to do to protect my well-being, my state of mind. You always see on the news when the victim dies or whatever, oh, the victim was such a good guy. And then the perpetrator is such an evil reincarnation of the devil. But sometimes the victim might have been the bully. And this other individual had to do what was necessary to protect himself. But now he becomes the villain because he was willing to stand up for himself and stand his ground and protect his livelihood. But going back, like, some of my friends, they feel that I've adjusted well and that everything is perfectly fine. And then I'm like, I wasn't affected by, time that I spent in the penitentiary. But, I deal with things a lot different than other people, or not a lot different, just different than some people. But, the last couple of weeks, I'm realizing that I didn't escape that place unscathed. There's times there where I'm afraid to go to sleep. The novelty of being home when I first came home, that, just being so excited to be home that that energy shields me from the last 2 decades. But now that I've settled in, I don't know what's changed that was protecting me from all those demons. But you know, um, I don't understand it, so I really can't explain it to you. But for those people that's been incarcerated, that's been where I've been, I'm pretty sure they understand a little better than what I'm trying to explain. Even though, I justify the things that I've done while I was incarcerated in a perspective that I was doing it to ensure my safety, my well-being, not to be a victim and all that stuff. But still, the things you have to do to ensure those safety and not become a victim are things that affect you. They affect you psychologically. And, sometimes I get frustrated that I'm not as invincible as I want myself to be. And sometimes I have a hard time accepting that I'm just like everybody else when it comes to things fucking up your mindset, right? Like, I don't regret anything that I've done. I'm definitely not ashamed of it, but I don't like the fact that I had to do some of these things. And like I said, I haven't had the chance to process all the situations that I've been in, how many times that I've came so close to losing my life in these altercations. To survive the environment that I've been in, you have to make up your mind what you're willing to do and what you're not willing to do. Regardless if you have a life sentence, regardless if you only got a few years. Because there's plenty of people that's come through that's only had a couple years, that only had 7 years, and didn't make it. They didn't make it where they lost their life in an altercation, or they didn't make it where they took a life and ended up having more time tacked on. But if you have somebody that's headed that way, because I've had some comments about, hey, my brother's over here, my cousin's over here, my dad's over here. Like, how do they survive this place? Well, one, and you know, I don't have the answers, right? So I don't have the solution. But what I can share with you, from my perspective, from my experience, having been through it, and that have made it home, I can share with you that you have to be a man of principles and conviction. And when people challenge that, you have to be willing to meet it head first, regardless of the outcome. Because, they have the saying that I'd rather die on my feet than live on my knees. I live by that. I don't want to exist or survive something with my head down and being a victim and being violated just so that I can just survive it and come home. Because that's not surviving. I'm not sacrificing my mental state, my well-being, just to get along. You know, you have to insist to do your time the way that you want to, and that's always, But of course, you always have to conduct yourself respectfully, conduct yourself with integrity. But at the end of the day, when someone disrespects you or someone invades your space, you have to be willing to deal with that. Because if you don't, even if you come home, how are you going to look yourself in the mirror? You know, I'm okay with looking at myself in the mirror. I mean, sometimes I'm not sure if the guy that's staring back at me, but for the most part, I'm comfortable with who I am when I look in the mirror. And not many people can say that. You know, like I said, I wasn't sure where this video was going to lead, and I just wanted to share with you guys some thoughts that's been running through my mind, and let the people know that's been incarcerated, that's dealing with these issues. Like, I understand. Like, if no one else understands, right? I understand. And I'm sorry that I don't have the answer or the solution to help us overcome these demons. But, for me, it's just making sure I get up every morning. I have my tattoo shop with my wife here. I come here and I just do what I need to do, put one feet before the other and try to make it work out, right? So, to the people that's viewing this, that's been incarcerated, that's dealing with some demons or whatever, that you're welcome to hit me up on the comment, homie. If there's any wise words that I can share, any knowledge that I can share to help you through, I'm more than happy to. Like I said, I don't know if I have the answers for you, and I definitely don't have the cure all whatever remedy, but it's a battle that I'm willing to fight with you going forward. And again, I always appreciate you guys' love and you guys' support. And on to another note, I'm trying to do some things, man, out here. So, and trying to do it takes funds. I really asked none of you guys, the viewers, for anything, but, and I don't want anything. I don't want anything for free or anything like that. If you guys want to support what we're doing out here, what I'm trying to do out here, man, get on my website, baddestmanlive77.com. Purchase a t-shirt, a hoodie, a jacket. You know that those funds is going to go to something, to other projects that I'm trying to build. And again, I appreciate your love and I'm grateful for your support. Till next time, welcome to the USP.